And we're live. Welcome and cheers. This is my live stream, and we will celebrate it with one of these neck oil session IPA. So yeah, I want to take a look at Renderman today. Renderman for Maya and Lookdev in Renderman. So yeah, what I'm gonna do, we're gonna take a look at first off energy compensation. So it's kind of a interesting topic with a new Pixar surface. We don't really have energy compensation, so we have to figure that out and also see here what we can do to mitigate that when it comes to shading. So especially we have something called white furnace, and that's something that we will take a look at here shortly. But first off, let's have one of these beers here. Yeah, that's good. I'm just gonna adjust some sound settings here. Hold on. Let's see here. See if it's better. I think it was cutting off there a bit. In my gate settings. Let's see here. Hold on. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so yeah, we want to take a look at white furnace. So let's dive into my workspace here and see what we can do with that. So white furnace, what is that? So there's something when it comes to Lookdev that we have to be aware of, and that's energy coming into a material and what comes out. So an easy way to check that is essentially to make an environment light that's white and make a sphere and then play with the shader. So if you have a white and you have a specular and you start to render, you will see that if you add one specular or two specular, all of a sudden you can have more energy coming out from the shader than coming in. And this is something that the Renderman Llama shader that's going to come up in Renderman 24 hopefully will handle. From what I've heard from the tech demos, it looked like the Llama system will handle this more behind the scenes. I guess Arnold handled this better in the shader, and Renderman is not really designed to by default handle this. So let's take a look here. If I make an environment light, let's see here, and so I have set up, let's take a look here actually what I've set up. I think I have aces set up. Yeah, so we have aces set up there. Okay. So let's create a ball here, sphere. Scale it up a bit. So the easiest way to have pixel readout in Renderman at the moment, I would like to be able to sample, like have some kind of readout here in the viewport, but that's not really possible. So what I use is to use the IPR here. So let's start to mess with this. So first off, let's just apply here. So I select the ball and hit this, the bath ball here. I like to call it the bath ball. And that's essentially applies a shader. So let's now fire up IPR here, and let's get this up and rendering. So in the down here we can see in like this region here, you can see it's gonna be hard to see, I guess, from this live stream here, but you can see the pixel readout. So if I hover over the white background here, you can see it's 111. So I'm using essentially 1 in exposure onto the whole environment here. And now here, if I start to go in here and set this to 1 here, my, let's see here, diffuse no, I was on the Lambert. Okay, so color here. So now we have like a white ball, so that's okay. But now if I say, for example, have here my primary specular, and I set this to 1 here, you can see here, essentially I have a white, totally diffuse ball, and I also have a face color that's essentially 100%. And you can see here that now my out values is around 2, and that's because when I take the face color and setting this to 1, I'm essentially, it's making it 100% reflective. But I also have this white ball here. So essentially I'm making a mirror, but I'm also having the diffuse. So in this scenario, would like to set this, the diffuse down to 0. And now it reflects 100%. So this is a problem when it comes to balancing the shader. Let's see here if we have some people in the chat. Yeah. When you start to use, for example, 2 speculars, if I would have here now having another face color here for the rough specular, we can see here the readout is now 2, and that's because I have 1 and 1, so that's 2. And if I now enable diffuse again, you will see you have 3 here. So you see you have essentially 3 times the energy coming out than you pump in. So you can see that something needs to happen here. We need to compensate to this. And this is a choice in the Pixar surface that hopefully will be balanced now with the new Llama shader. But it's good to know about energy anyway, because when we start to render things with subsurface and reflections and all of that, we need to understand what energy is, and the white furnace that this is called when you do this type of ball here that is totally that's 100% white surrounding it. You can see here this would never be a plausible way to render it. So if we're gonna do for example a shiny mirror, so let's take an HDR now. So we have something here. I'm just gonna go to my HDR images, go to my computador. Where is it? Hold on, just gonna take it. My NAS was not up and running there. Let's see here. Why isn't it running? Hold on. Come on. Let's close this. Just gonna do some housekeeping here, see what's happened. Escape. And there you go. I'm not sure why it didn't mount there, but now it's mounted. So let's go back to my color map here. It's gonna take an HDR. So let's take something here. Let's take this one and start to render with IPR again. Okay. I need to increase the exposure a bit here. So I have a really old graphics card, and something here with this bugs out my interface here. So I'm hoping to get this new NVIDIA graphics card here very soon. Hopefully that will be remedied. And let's take this one. Let's take a look here at my Pixar surface again. So we have here the diffuse color is set to 0, and I have my exposure or my artistic specular here. So if I set this to 100% here, then it's going to be like a mirror. If I set the roughness down to 0, we can see here now it's reflecting. This is correct for a metal, but if I would have my color here also set to white, this is kind of not really a plausible way to render something. This is essentially I've broken it, because if this would be a mirror, you can't have diffuse, at least in Renderman. So what you will do for something that's more like a plastic, you would take the artistic and you would have a slight bit of face color and then have the edge color. So this is more like something that would be like a plastic. This would be correct, but when you have white and face color to 1, sure, you can do it, but this is not really like something that you would render with, because when you start to render, it will be like glow in the dark, this, especially when you start to add rough specular as well. Let's add that as well. So now the readout here, we can see here from the sky here, for example, if I go up here and see what do we have in the readout here, 5, the sky there. What do we have here? It's not that bad, but yeah, this will not be what you would expect. So the easiest way to test that is to make a fully white ball. So it's a bit about energy. You need to be able to balance the energy. So for example, if I would have here a specular, let's make this specular again. Let's say that we have something here. So you want to have a bit of this primary specular, and then you want to have a bit of rough specular as well. So you don't want to set them both to 1, because that's going to be doubling the intensity. So let's say that you have 0.5, and then you would have max 0.5 in the rough spell. That will balance to 1. You want to have this going up to 1, but not above 1, essentially. So yeah. Okay, so someone is asking, hey, would like to know the reason you're using Renderman. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, what's special about it? What's special about Renderman? It's like any other renderer. It's just what I like about Renderman is a bit how it samples images, and also how it handles with complexity in a very complex pipeline. There is a lot of investment going into companies using Renderman. When it comes to the pipeline, you can extend it very easily. You can program your own materials, and you can do that in other renders as well. But there's flexibility in it, and I also like the images it produces. It's marginal, different to like Arnold, Renderman. They are all kind of built on the same type of principles, I guess, in the end. But yeah, I just like the quality and how it filters images. I think the filtering in Renderman is really good, how it filters images. But yeah, it's just something I've been using since early 2000s, so I guess I just stick with what I know. I like Arnold as well. I mainly has been using Arnold and Renderman in my productions, and lately Renderman, but before I came to MPC, I was using Arnold, and before that V-Ray and Mental Ray, and before that Renderman for a long time. So I've been exposed to a few of the renders. Okay, so let's actually now start to do some look dev about this. So let's see what we can do. Let's toast this one here, my ball, and pause this. take my, let's change the environment here and take my, let's take, yeah, we can start with this one, that's fine. Yeah, so let's take my open, actually I'm gonna open my scene here and say scene. Recent projects, take my Gatling here, open scene, and say recent files, start, take this one. Okay, so yeah, here we go. Let's start to render this. So I'm rendering using sRGB here, and let's go here to, where is my, that's funny. Let me see here, something happened there. My viewport. I lost my viewport. We can do it like this then. That's fun. I've noticed that once or twice that I lose the drop down there. That's freaky. Okay, so hypershade, let's minimize this a bit, and let's start to take a look at some lookdev here. Okay, so we have my Gatling gun here. I'm gonna just disable this cold map here and take a look. So what I did when I textured this guy in Amari, I used linear sRGB workflow, but now I actually converted all my textures into aces. So I used that using a program called what is it, Fusion. So it comes with my DaVinci Resolve that I have a license for, and I converted them from linear sRGB to aces just because I'm using aces workflow here. So let's take a look at that here as well. Settings, color management. So yeah, aces. So all of my images here in this example is pre-converted to aces color space, so I don't have to handle that. And let's render this and just see here. So here's my diffuse and my face color and all of that. So the first thing I do here when I go to render this guy is to go to advanced under the primary specular and set this to GGX. So that's a different way to render an object. So I guess the easiest way to see what the GGX does. So let's insert a sphere here and just go up here. And it's gonna do this and create a new material here. And let's take this guy and make it like a mirror. Set the roughness to 0, and by default we have here Beckman. So let's see here. We can see this is the reflection and it's pure. But when you do something like this, let's see here. When you set the roughness a bit higher here, you can see here. Let's actually turn off the selection highlighting so we can see it. You can see here now it starts to blur it out here because I have increased the roughness here. But when I now here go from Beckman to GGX, we're gonna see a bit of a pop. It's not as visible here in the IPR, but some values here, when we have a bit of roughness, I think the GGX is more, you know, it behaves better with roughness. We can see it here on the sides here in the reflection. It starts to be like a bit of a tail in the roughness rather than physical. Oops, what did I do there? I took it to physical. Going here between the different roughnesses, we can see it's minimal roughness is not going to be as much putting Beckman and GGX, but it's more when you have this like or around this 0.2 or something in roughness. I think the GGX is superior in the look rather than Beckman. Beckman is more made for pure metallic surfaces, you know, like mirror-like, than the GGX. You can see it blooms a bit more there, and that's something I like. So yeah, I set it to GGX on this asset because I have a lot of, you know, semi-rough values when I texture this, and I have something like brushed aluminium, I have rubber, and all of those have roughness in the material. Okay, so diffuse color, let's see here. This is the color that I textured, and if I solo this, we can take a look here how it looks. This is the pure colors. Let me drag this out a bit here. So we can see here, all of these scratches here, they are black, and that's because I made these metallic. So that means that in my specular map, they will be white here. So we get this metallic look. So let's take a look at that. So we have the face and edge color. So when I texture this guy, I use face and edge color rather than a physical specular component. And for you who not so familiar with Renderman, we have two different type of specular modes. So we have artistic and we have physical. And when I texture it, I used artistic, but I have started to use physical for more and more of my Renderman texturing in later versions, when I could define materials more easily using physical values in the new material system in Mari. It's easier to handle artistic in the beginning, at least. It's more easy to understand the face and edge color because you don't have to have like physical values that you have when you use the physical specular. When you have the physical, yes, you can use what you do then. You have the refraction index and the extinction coefficient in my case here. So by default, you have a refraction index set to 1. I don't know exactly where it is, 1.5, yeah. So that's kind of simulating like a plastic or something. And for the physical to work, you need to have the edge color here set to 1. Then it's fully on. So now it's using the physical, and it's using 1.5 in refraction index. So yeah, that's gonna increase my dome light here, or switch to another HDR maybe. Let me do that. Let's take my server room here. Should have an ACES. Yeah, there we have it. ACES converted. Oops. Yeah, so this one needs to be adjusted. Let's take this to 1 or something. So first off, I want to figure out the correct exposure for this HDR, so we can do that. Let's take this ball here and set the, let me see here, selection highlighting. I want to make it like a white and a gray ball, so we can start to measure the exposure and stuff. So first off, actually it's easier to measure exposure using the IPR here again, because I have this pixel readout. Just want to set that one and go to my pixel surface, make it white-ish something. So we have like a white ball. I'm not gonna do it pure white because I don't like using like 100% white. It's not really something you have in an object. Maybe 0.9 or something. So we have a bit of, yeah, that we see. And let's duplicate this ball and make it 50% gray or something, so we can start to gather our exposure here. Okay, color management 0.5. Yeah. And now I just wanna briefly here just set my exposure so we get something that's close to white there, and it actually is beyond that. And what's this readout here? So it's a bit high here actually. I guess we have a lot of energy coming from those there. Just gonna briefly here take my exposure down a tad. Point 0.5. .75. Yeah, I want something that's, you know, looks okay. This looks plausible. I would expect the white here actually to become a bit brighter there, because we have this super, I'm not sure what type of values we get from this light there. It's like 87 in exposure there, so it's kind of a hot light, that, so it's okay that it's a bit overexposed there, or goes beyond 1 there. So yeah, okay, now I'm just gonna kill the IPR and actually go back to viewport rendering here. I hope you can get some better implementation of the viewport, so I can actually start to sample, unless it's already possible. I'm not sure. Maybe I don't know how to do that, but yeah, it would be nice to actually read the pixel readout in the viewport for these type of things. So we know that we have something here. Let me see here. Where did my asset go? I lost it. Come on. Where did I lose it? Let's turn off viewport and see. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure where it went. I lost it. No. Okay, let's fire up and render there. And yeah, let's take a bit of a beer as well. Cheers. Yeah, and if you see this on the rerun, I'm gonna do a bit of this today, and the next time it's gonna be about layered shading as well. So this one is I textured this using like a monolithic approach. So I textured it for essentially what was in the viewport in the Mari was exactly building. So I took essentially the values from my offline rendered and I took those into Mari when I textured it. So I already was texturing with predefined values. So the surprise when I get it back into Renderman is very minimal. Essentially already defined the materials before I started texture it. So essentially I just need to apply the textures and that's it, really, unless I want to change something, and that's when we have to start to do overrides and stuff. So let's take let's collect my outliner there so I don't see it. Go for a Pixar texture. So Pixar texture read, if you know to Renderman and Renderman for Maya, Pixar texture read, it's equivalent to Maya file read nodes. You load your images and it only accepts Renderman textures, and Renderman textures is the TX format. Okay. So I converted my textures here into ACCG. So all of my textures here are already pre-converted to TX files, and they are also in the ACCG color space. So first now here I want to take my edge color, and that's going to be what we defined essentially before when we did this metal ball there, essentially. So I read this in and I set my Atlas style to Mari because it's UDIN numbered using the Mari, and you can see here the map ID here is what is replaced. So the 1001, for example, is replaced with map ID, and it's going to be picked up and start to render using this UDIM sequence. So let's see here. You can filter on your material here. This Pixar surface here, for example, if you want to find here edge, specular edge color, for example. I want to plug this in. So I'm going to rename edge col so we know what it is. Just pipe it in here. Let me see here. We should have something popping up. Just gonna go back to my, and I realize now because I put it to physical and this value here is not physical, so it's an artistic. So I need to swap this over, and now we can see here we have a physical specular here on the edge color. Or should have. Let me see here what we have. It looks a bit strange there, to be honest. Let's take a look and see what we get. Just gonna hit the S button here to, yeah, so we should have something there. Let's specular edge color. Just unsolo that. Go to my Gatling. It's actually, I believe it is actually there. Yeah, it's just so minimal. The most of the bulk of this is gonna come from the face color. Or let me check here. It looks a bit funky, to be honest. Let me just go to viewport, turn it off and on so it's not like a cache thing. Specular edge. Okay, so let's take my specular face and see what happens. Pixel texture read again. Okay, so we want to have a face color here now. Face color. And let's go to my face color. There we have it. Face color. Okay, 1001. Fine. Take my Mori, UD Mori there, and let's take face spec face color. Yeah. Okay, so something, yeah, actually it is working. But just looking a bit funky. I guess I was reflecting the black here on you know, the server rack here, essentially picking up like something really dark there. So I'm just gonna disconnect here and see here what's going on. If I disconnect my color here temporarily, we can see here, yeah, it's picking up. Let's say my diffuse color back. And also I want to just test here if I just create a ground plane here. Just gonna do that quickly. It's plane. Yeah. And we can see now, yeah, I was just looking that this reflection here was behaving a bit erratic, but I think it just picked up the HDR and it was an angle, so it just picked up something that was black. So when you look at an HDR, for example, it's not really a physical correct light, because essentially you capture everything that's surrounding the HDR, and the light sources doesn't really have any notion about distance, because if you think about it, you capture something, for example, the sun, when you capture an HDR, the sunlight, for example, it takes 8 minutes for a photon to reach your lens from the sun, so it's very far away. But when you capture it and in HDR, it's the same distance in pixels, like something that sits next to you and the sun. So it's a approximation, and it's a good tool, but it's not really behaving physically, because when you have a light, for example, the inverse square law of the light fall off doesn't really apply on an HDR. It's a linear fall off, really, because the sun should be really, really far away and really big. but that's not really true. So HDRs, you have to capture, take them with a grain of salt. It's not ground truth by any means, and that's why reflections can look very strange when you have just used an HDR. Okay, so back to this, we can see here now when I insert my ground plane, you can see it is actually catch the reflection more properly, because now we have a real, distance. The reflection will behave properly because it looks at a reflection angle and looks here, and it hits the floor here instead of the HDR. I'm just gonna take it away here because we can see here now it's just black in this area there, and that's because of the HDR is probably hitting one of these guys here, probably that portion there, and that's why it looks a bit strange there. It looks good when you get something that's essentially is in front facing when you see behind you, but a grazing angle, it will not be correct when you use an HDR unless it's something that's very generic, but this one is very crammed here in my case. Okay. So yeah, we have my color, my edge color, and my face color. So let's now pipe in my specular roughness. So I'm making another pixel texture. Spec R. And specular roughness is one of these, it's just a data channel, so it's linear and all of the values is between 0 and 1 in my shader. So when I texture this, the black values will be shiny and the white values will be rougher. So that's how that map works. So specular roughness, let's see, where is it? There you have it. So I just want to take the result R and pipe that into the roughness, and let's see here. Yeah. So now we can see here we have some values here that's shinier and some values that's rougher, and that's expected. If you look here at my specular roughness map, let's take a look at what I did when I painted this. I'm just gonna hit the S button here to solo this. It takes a while. I would like to see how this works with XPU in the future, where the XPU is what's gonna be using the graphics card to render it. So let me see here. Come on. Oh, there we go. And this is the specular roughness that we have to play with. And as we can see here, essentially the specular roughness is meant to be a linear value, but we are actually using a LUT here, with the sRGB LUT. So what I painted in Mari was not really looking like this. It was looking like, if I turn the color profile to raw here, this is the values that I recognize when I painted this. So if we look here at my, for example, all of the dirt stains here, there's gonna be a lot rougher than values like this texture is shinier than this one, and the roughest part of this map is probably all of the dirt. That's the whitest part. You can see all of this, the white stuff here is dirt, and we can see it here around, like I have smears around there. So if I unsolo this and go back to my shading, we're gonna see that it should be rougher there than in that area there. Okay. Okay, so let me check something here as well. I just wanna take my exposure and gamma and do some compensations here just to see here. Let's crank this up a lot. Let's take 5. I just want to see so I don't have any super black values in my maps. If like I forgot to clamp something. Okay, I will set this back to sRGB Aces color space there as well. Just gonna crank this up as well. The gamma, just to see if I have something that's essentially what I'm looking for is a bit like if I had something in my texture that was, even if I overcrank it, still didn't respond like it was. The easiest way to do that, if I will go here into color, for example, and make a grade node or something. Let's do something funky here. Exposure. And I want to take my diffuse, the color, and just do an override here and do something totally inappropriate, but we can see how it respects when you apply the LUT. So that's something that I usually, when I start to look at Lookdev, just to see that we don't have clamped values or stuff like that, especially when it goes to really dark, unless it's a pure metal. It's good to have a bit of values. Okay, we want to have this one into diffuse. -5 or something. Yeah, so this one will be super bad if you overexpose your gamma like so much, so it kind of goes, you know, you can see here this that's supposed to be, this one was really black here. If I set this down to 1 again, this part here, for example, over in the HDR, you can see here this is really dark, but I overexposed this very much there. And if you see that your texture still doesn't you know, work properly, like for example now here my exposure, I've underexposed it a lot here just to see like 10 stops. You can see here now essentially this one will not behave properly, and that's sometimes you get a texture and it's really dark and you might need to raise it. In my case here, I already painted it in the correct values because it's derived from Lookdev. So I just want to demonstrate something. If you overexpose your gamma and your exposure and something in your render is still not behaving appropriate with the lighting, it's usually something that you need to either grade or bump back to texturing, because you might have something that's totally just 0 in value, and that's usually not a good thing to have, because yeah, then it will start to behave incorrectly when you start to light it. Okay, so yeah, we have my color and oops, it's my specular is set up and all of that jazz. So yeah, let's take a look here at some concepts around bump maps and all of these things. So we have something here, we can bump globally or we can bump lobes. So in my case, I used bump map globally, but I just want to demonstrate something that you can actually bump individual lobes as well. So let's take a look at that as a side step here. Okay, so let's actually do that by using a clear coat. Just gonna take a bit of clear coat like I have a lacquer on top of everything here. So we can see here. And you can bump individual lobes or everything. So in your shader here, let's go here and take a look at down here at the bottom, I believe it is. Is it at the top? Bump normal. If I plug anything into bump normal here, it's gonna bump all the lobes. But what happens if you just wanna bump one node? And that's something you can also do. So let's first bump everything and then apply a bump on just the clear coat on its own to see what happens. So we can do that Pixar bump. If I take Pixar bump and let's make some kind of noise or something just to Pixar whirly. Water noise. Let's see what that one does. So we want to have input normal. And we want to see here result normal into bump. See what happens. And now we want to just to solo this Pixar bump to see what. Oh, essentially I want to take the Voronoi here first off and set the scale first. Okay, let me see if this one is. Okay. Let me see here. Okay, I was checking something there. Let me see here, and I'm gonna uncheck this one, this guy. So I got a question here. So how would you fix the linear roughness maps in ACES workflow? So you don't have to fix. Essentially, it's only color data that's really needs to be fixed. But when I converted my textures from linear sRGB to ACES, I applied a reverse LUT using utility linear sRGB into ACES CG. So you can do that on, because all of my textures was in, when I exported these textures, was converted out as linear sRGB. So essentially I just reformat those images into ACES CG and that will work. But essentially you don't have to do that, because any non-color sensitive data is just values. So if you have 0.1, it's going to be the same when you take it into 0.1 in the roughness. And so yeah, for best practice, I house everything in ACCG. I convert them, but essentially normal maps, bump maps, specular roughness, they are all data values. You don't really have to convert those, because they are only housing scalar data. It's when you start to convert colors that it's really important, because color data is more sensitive to hue shifts, or you can see that saturation when you take something that's been textured in sRGB becomes less saturated when you remap it into ACES. And no plastic in the chat. He said yes, hopefully it will be automatic in version 24, and I believe it will be, at least from what I saw when the tech demo of the upcoming 24, they will have support for ACES and all of that. Okay, so let me see here. It's a bit hard to get this unsolo back sometimes. I'm not sure why. Let me see here. And why I don't get any bump here. That's a bit freaky. Let me see here. I should have something. Let's do the Voronoi and just make it super crunchy here. So we have something frequency. Should have some kind of grainy noise there. Let me see here. Come on. Chup chup. Solo is, I'm not sure. Do I have a, let me see here. Maybe I'm using too many IPR. So it's, maybe I have to, let me see. Renderman, IPR, threads. Do I have something that limits the threads for preview? So I'll save a few threads. Don't think I have that. Is it under advanced? Let me check another place where it could be. I'm not sure if they have that. Renderman, rendering. And should be Renderman somewhere. Where is it? There we have it. Threads. The number of preview IPR. Let's take away. So I have two threads, -2 threads, and see if that works better with a solo. It's like it's tried to cannibalize and just doesn't really sometimes acknowledge that I hit the button there. The solo. Okay, so, okay. So what I'm doing now, I'm just gonna, come on, unsolo. It doesn't. I must have done something funky here, or maybe I need to, let me see if sometimes it's a refresh thing. If I just restart my rendering there, see if it's, no, that's funky. Okay, let's take a pixel texture and just take my, yeah, I'm not sure what I did wrong there. I need to restart this. Let's do that from scratch. Like take a texture and take my bump map and plug it in. There you go. Bump. Input. Let's delete this bump as well, just to see here. Oops, I hope I didn't crash more now. Oh, Renderman. Okay. Essentially, actually, the pixel bump, you can actually use the, should be able to use. Let me see here, can I do that? Plug in the bump there. Strange. Test, let me see. Oh, there you go. It's a bit strange when you, if you create a node sometimes in Hypershade and you delete it and you create it again, and if you then insert a like a path, it's like it doesn't respect it. So that's a bit of a strange thing. So what I did here, you can actually insert the file straight into the bump node here and say Atlas style. So essentially the bump node acts like a texture read at the same time. So let's do that. Bump. And let's see here now if I get, yeah, so now we have bumps going on onto my objects. And it's probably too much, so let's take the scale down to 0 and zoom in here to see here. 0.1 maybe. So this one essentially I'm using later on as a displacement. I just want to take a look at it. So what I want to do, demonstrate that I didn't, what I did wrong there, I put my Voronoi noise into the input normal, but it should be the input bump. So let's try that. I'm gonna do another Voronoi again. Well, there we have it. Let's see if this works better now. Instead of using my this bump, let's take my Voronoi. Let's see if I can get that to work now. Result float into the input. Let's make another bump, Pixar bump. Bump 2, and let's say result, input bump. Let's take this one and let's pipe this one into result normal to the bump there. That should work. Hopefully, should be some strange poor noise, and we can see that. You can see here now we are actually applying bump, this noise pattern on top of everything. But imagine that you only want to apply this bump. Oops, my dog. You want to apply this bump only to the specular component or the diffuse, for example. So let's see how we can do that. So that's good to know. So you can essentially apply a bump on a lobe basis as well, because the bump normal here is a global, but you have bumps here for diffuse, specular. So let's break the connection here to the global bump and pipe this into first. We can try and bump the diffuse first and see how that looks. Let's just diffuse. Let me see, where is it? Diffuse, bump normal. Yeah, so we want to pipe it into this guy here and see what happens. So I take my result normal and go to that guy there. And now essentially I'm bumping the underlying diffuse, but the specular component is not bumped. So that's sometimes that's something that you want to do. You want to, you know, have like a lacquer on top of something. So you want to bump individual components in with different type of. It's not going to be as visible now because a lot of this is essentially hidden by the specular reflection here. But if I now break this one and take my specular instead, we can see how that reacts. So then I will only apply this bump onto the kind of this clear coat here. So clear coat, we need to find a bump. The clear coat bump normal, so let's take this one. Oops. So now I'm applying a bump only on the clear coat. And it's quite severe now, so let's take this down to like a tiny amount. Let's first off disable it so we can inspect that it's working. So you enable it, and now I'm only applying a bump onto that clear coat. So it will not bump if I had my specular. So it will only apply it on the clear coat component. So I would imagine I need a very small amount here to get this to work. Let me zoom in. So now we are applying a lacquer on top of this one, and I'm only applying a bump onto the surface of the lacquer, not the whole, all of the lobes. So that's something that could be good sometimes when you just want to treat something individually. Okay. But now I essentially want to take this away. I don't want to do that because I'm not going to use clear coat at the moment. So let me disable clear coat here and see here what's going on. Okay, we're back to that. Okie dokie. So what else do we have? We want to, do some displacement and stuff like that. So I want to use my my bump, essentially the texture I use for the bump. So we have some other, let me just read a bit here in the chat and see what's going on. So yeah, one question is, have I been tempted to explore Lookdev in Houdini? And yes, I am. And I'm gonna actually take this asset into Houdini after I have first taken it through this monolithic approach. And in the next one, I'm gonna do this in layered shading here in Maya. So I have exported the maps all combined, and then I also have broken out individual layers, and I'm gonna do a layered shading of this guy as well. And after that, I will actually take a look at recreating this asset also in Houdini. So yes, I will do that. And also curious why they focus Houdini rendering side of things. Will you see yourself switching to the paradigm any time in the future? Yes, I mean the Solaris side looks. Essentially what I want to learn Houdini. I'm just learning it at the moment. I'm learning more the Solaris side, but at the moment Solaris is a bit buggy. So I'm, I guess it's not up to production yet, but I'm certainly looking into the Solaris side because it has a lot of good things similar to Katana. You can do node-based lighting and compositing, or like lighting and all of this. That's more easy to do rather than this, Maya layered based approach and stuff like that. So yeah. Okay, so let's do some displacement material here. Go to my displays, Pixar displays. Oops. Why didn't it? I want this guy. There you go. Oops. Why am I having so much real estate there? I'm just gonna reshuffle this a bit. Okay. Okay, so bump map here. Let's take this one. So I need to remap this. We looked at this briefly in another episode, but yeah, Pixar remap, displacement remap. So displacement transform is the correct name I was searching for. So displacement transform is a utility node that remaps values, and by default, I believe Pixar displacement assumes that zero displacement is zero, like black. But if you have negative values in your displacement, for example, if it comes from ZBrush and stuff, you can have negative values. You might need to either remap your values if you have something that's painted, or so this node is what we use to do that. So in my example here, my bump map that also doubles as a displacement map is painted with 0.5 value in like zero displacement is 0.5. So anything above 0.5 will be, pushing above the surface. So if we imagine 0.5 is no displacement, and 1 will be pushing it up to here, and 0 will be pushing it down to there. So yeah, that's how I texture it. So it's going to be clear soon here. And let's take my result RGB, or essentially I can just take result R and displacement scalar, and then we want to transform this. So I know that my base value was 0.5 and that is centered, and then you displacement center here, you can set exactly what value was your center value. And in my case, I always paint my painted displacements 0.5 in from Mori, because it's easier to look at something that has a value above 1 rather than having negative values. And now we want to set the height and depth. So I know that I need to take this down a lot. So let's take it 0.5, that's 0.1 and 0.1. So it's gonna push values above 0.5, 0, 1 up or 0, 1 down. This depends on the values you have painted with, so can be different for your different. Or you can also set this to, there's two schools to do this. You can set it to 0.5, 0.5, and set the scale on the node here. So let's go to the scale and set the gain here. But I rather leave that in to set this here onto my transform node rather than do it on the gain, because when you start to level or add displacements together, it can be nice to have an additional override. So that's going to be evident here soon. 0.1 and 0.1. I think that's probably too much anyway, but let's see what happens. Result. Oops. That's strange. Pixar, this. Transform. Why did I lose? That's strange. It was like I lost my result float there. I'm not sure what I did. Let's do this. Bump result this scalar result float to. So what I'm doing here, I'm taking my bump maps that's painted, I'm inserting into displacement scalar, and the result float is what's going to be into my displacement node here. So result float into this scalar, and now this one will act as this remap node. So we see here now it's broken because it's just start to shift it all over the place. And now we need to go here and set this to centered first off and see what happens. And it's way too much still, so we now need to go here and set this height and depth to something smaller. Let's see here, we can see here something is happening there. If I now crank this up to something, I can either do it here in my height and depth, or I can go into my gain and just overcrank this. I'm gonna set the gain back to, just gonna see here what happens. And now we see here something starts to break here. But essentially you want to use subdivision when you do displacement, so I need to add subdivision here as well. So just gonna scale out here, zoom out, I mean, and I'm gonna go here and enable displacement. I'm just gonna pause this viewport here quickly so it doesn't have to refresh, and go here into my Renderman and go here and say Catmull Clark. Actually, I can do this. Select them all and go to my window. That's a different way to do this. Where is it? Relationship, high spreadsheet. Where have they shifted that to now? Let me see. I'm blind. Can't remember what it's called. Relationships editor. It's called attribute spreadsheet something. Where have they shifted that one to? Thought it was on the general editors. Now I'm totally brown. Attribute spreadsheet. There you go. Renderman, and go to Renderman subgroup scheme and set this to, let me see, is it 1 Catmull Clark? I'm gonna get Catmull Clark on all my selected objects. And let's see here. There we go. Let's go and set this to Renderman viewport again. Okay, so I just need to let it do its thing here. It usually takes a bit when you start to render with displacement the first time, and then it becomes faster. So let me see here now. Yeah, so now it would be nice with this new graphics card from NVIDIA and XPU. I guess it's gonna be faster, and I hope this will be a lot faster in Renderman 24 when XPU hits the shelf. It's usually the first pass. It's a bit slow when you enable displacement. Once that's gone through, it's usually faster. I'm gonna try this one on Arnold as well and see how that. I guess it's a bit faster when you have the GPU, but I haven't really tried Arnold that much with that type of technology. So yeah, come on, give it to me. Oops. No, what happened there? He lost. Okay, but it's still faster once it has converged once and when it cached. Okay, let's go in here now and take a look what we got. Let me see, maybe, yeah, that's why I don't get any bump. You need to have a texture. Note to self, remember to check your file read node. Okay. So someone asked here, it was COVID that delayed the development of version 24. I'm not sure how much COVID had an impact on that, but yeah, I mean, all companies had a big hit here this year, I guess, including the companies I work for, and you know, it's been a brutal year with this COVID, to be honest. Okay, so now we should actually have some displacement going on when we actually have a texture. So let's take a look at when we now unsolo this. And yeah, let's see here. Now it starts to render, and now it had to regenerate this displacement, I guess, because I actually now have a map there. So it's gonna, yeah, there we go. Just gonna zoom in here to see that we have something going. Let me actually make a crop region here now. Let me see. Okay, displace enabled. So it's probably this one that needs to be tweaked now. I'm gonna set this to 1 and 1 and just to see that I actually get something there. Maybe it's gonna explode now. Oh, yeah, something happens. So we definitely have displacement going on now. It's just too much, but yeah, that's expected. So let's maybe set it to 0.25. 0.25, and so the height will be how much it push it up, and the depth gonna be how much it push it down below 0.5 in value. So you want to have, usually you want to have the same value up and down, so that's gonna be like the range essentially. But you can also overcrank it with the what's called the gain here if you wanna do that. But I rather tweak the transform here, so I have the ability to have another map maybe on the gain later on, if that makes sense. Let me go to somewhere else. Point 4 and 0.4 maybe. Sometimes I think the displacement doesn't look, it's like it's a bit cached, so restarting might actually trigger it. So let's see here. Let's see what happens if I restart it. And I also scaled down the maps when I exported these two ACES just to speed up the process. I took them from 4K down to 2K actually. So it's less resolution in the maps now than when I painted. And also I'm gonna make a archive out of this asset and package the textures in the coming days. It's going to be on my YouTube channel. You can see a link to get actually, you know, do this yourself. So be on the lookout for that. So I'm gonna be the model, and you can also then, it's gonna be a small field because I need to house this somewhere. So, but yeah, we can download the in textures. I think I'm gonna post the model free, but if you want to play with textures, I have to house it on Gumroad, so I just have to have a small fee to be able to package more than very lightweight files. That's one of the limitations with Gumroad. If you want to have something, this is going to be like 1.5 gigabyte or something just for the color data and all of that, and the layer is going to be even more. So I need to have a small fee just to be able to house it, unfortunately. But yeah, you can still download the model if you don't want to pay for it. But if you want to help me out, then you can pay a small fee to help my YouTube channel. It's up to you. Okay, so yeah, there we have the displacement going on and it's working. Let's take this out. Not sure what happened there. Okay, yeah. Let's actually take a look at some settings when it comes to displacement while we're at it. So there's a few options here that you wanna, if you see cracks and stuff in your displacement, there's a few options in advanced settings. So one of the things here is watertight dicing. I'm not sure if I have any of those problems, but if I would have that, watertight dicing under the globals is what you wanna try out with. That's essentially gonna, if you see cracks in between UV seams or anything that looks funky, the watertight option usually fix that. So that's one. And you also have this, if I go here, now it's essentially in the old race Renderman render, you have something called what's called shading rate. That's not applicable now with the new Renderman, but you have something that's similar when it comes to the displacement, and that's the option to actually set here if you want to have more out of your displacement. You have something here, micro polygon length, and that's something you can play with. So if you decrease this, I believe it's gonna be even greater fidelity. So let's see here on if I go here, if I set this to 0.5 or something, it might it's gonna be even more diced, essentially gonna subdivide the mesh even further. So yeah, let's take a look. It might take more memory. I believe it takes a bit more memory, but it might also start to take a bit longer to render. So yeah, let's take a look here. Let's go into this seam here and see if I can trigger this. And let's take a crop here. See if I can notice any difference. I'm not sure if this one actually updates on the fly or if you need a what's it called, a refresh. Let's see, 0.5. Let me see here. Okay, so my displacement bound is off. So yeah, let's fix that. I can see I get an error message. So displacement bound. Yeah, let's take a look at that as well. Let's go to viewport. And that's something that can essentially limiting how much it displays. So let's take a look at that. I'm not sure now what's going on. Okay, I thought I turned off. Yeah. Okay, so I want to mess with the displacement bound. So that's, you can do that in different places, but you can do it on the geometry. For example, if I go to my attribute editor and take, go to my Renderman section here, you can start here. Where is it? Shape node, displacement bound. It's 0.1 here, so let's increase this to 1 or something, as to see on this piece here. So now I'm not limiting the displacement to 0, 1. I'm actually limiting it to 1, so we can displace 1 unit out now, essentially. Let's see if it makes any difference. Get some message here. Can't render, start render. Let's hit this one up in the corner there. See if it starts to render. Might have done something here. I'm just gonna solo this object to test it, because I have this renders the seam there. So yeah, in the chat, nice to see you here again. Yeah, thanks. Nice to have you here again. And yeah, can we expect Arnold tutorials on this channel? Yeah, might pick up Arnold as well. It's nothing. I've done a few Arnold related stuff, mainly for texturing. I'm just gonna, oops, solo this. If I now solo this, it's gonna be a bit faster. Or hold on, can I do that in rendering? It didn't see that it expected that. Let me see here, or did I unsolo? Yeah, so Arnold, yes, I'm gonna do some Arnold stuff as well. Mainly the texturing lookdev side. So let me see here again if I now can get this to render soloed. So I isolated just this patch, but it looks like I'm in some kind of conflict now. Let me see here. And yeah, while it does that, today's beer. I'm not sure what's going on now. Maybe I need to save here and restart this guy here. Something is a bit fishy. I think I did something with yes, start stop. I think I did something with this viewport that didn't like here somehow. Or is it back now? Maybe. Come on. Come on. Looks like it's doing something. Let me see. Is it soloed? No, it doesn't respect that. Doesn't look like it. Where is it? Can I do like isolate? No. Anyway, let me actually. That's probably one of the things that is not respected in this viewport. There's a few things I believe that's not respected in the viewport. If I now actually pick up IPR here instead, let's see, does this one work better? Let me see. If it starts to... Oh, I'll do this. I'll save and reopen this. Something is fishy here now. Okay, save. Okay, I'm just gonna save this. And let's create a new scene and then reopen this, see what's going on. Renderman, does it render? Yes, open scene. Okay, if I now isolate this, see if my IPR actually respects that. Oops, it's rendering. It's a bit, yeah, sorry about this. I'm just testing. I haven't really played around that much with soloing stuff here. Maybe it doesn't work with IPR. I thought it would. Ah, okay. So yeah, I know what's going on. When I solo this, it hides the light. So I actually need to... So yeah, it doesn't render anything. That's... Okay, that makes sense. So what I can do here is essentially go to my outliner, or there's an option that says render selected. So render selected objects. Let's do that instead of the soloing. Let me see if this one works better. Okie dokie, so let's see here. Come on, work. Oh, there we go. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it actually is rendering selected, but it's very low resolution here. So if I zoom really close, maybe we can see here. Okay, so I wanted to test here my Renderman micro polygon length. Doesn't look like it's updating on the fly, so yeah, it's probably one of these settings that you need to refresh. But anyway, micro polygon length is essentially, if you lower it, it's gonna dice the geometry further, so you can get more out of your displacement. So that's essentially taking out from that. Okay. So what do we want to do next? Just gonna stop this one, and yeah, let me render this. So yeah, there we go. Just gonna run it in the viewport again. See here. So basically, I'm gonna wrap this soon and come back in maybe in the weekend and actually take a look at more like how we can build this guy with a layered shader. And after that, I might take some like a sidestep into Houdini actually, and just recreate this asset in Houdini as well. But before that, I'm gonna post, yeah, so also on, I have a Discord where I will post the asset. And there's also gonna be a Gumroad link, Gumroad link where you can actually also download if you wanna just plug in the textures. It's gonna be like a pound or two to be able to download it, because yeah, I need to charge something for Gumroad to house larger file sizes. But yeah, that's coming up. So in the next episode, I will actually add some clear coat and do some tweaks using isomaps. And then I will also start to look at how we can use layered shaders with Renderman. So Pixar layered material and layered shaders, and plugging all of the maps and starting to hook up what's called like ID maps and stuff like that. So that's gonna be in the next episode, probably on Sunday, if I get the time. Yeah, so I think I will wrap this. It's been like almost 2 hours now, so yeah, you are bored, and yeah, have a nice one, and yeah, see you around, and subscribe to this Discord. Try to chime in, and yeah, the link will be in the description on the rerun, how to go to the Discord. So yeah, see you there. Bye bye.